Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacaster Addendum with me, host Imperial Dane. Today's another sort of rumouratory topic is the Tiger Race. It's sort of what rule the unit represents, like also units like the King Tiger in Companies 1. That is a sort of, really high impact unit you can call into the game at a sort of to an extent high upfront cost, but at the same time not necessarily as big as else have to be. Plus again, just get something really big, really powerful. And you sort of get hit with a really massive tax on you afterwards. It's a really new drain to economy. In the case of the King Tiger and Companies 2 and Tiger Race before that, not quite as big as penalty long term, whereas the Tiger Race was one point you basically had no economy after it ever, and now it's just a really heavy levy that is removed once the Tiger Race dies. But generally, this type of unit has always been, shall we say, quite controversial in the Company series. It's now one it's been one either people say they love it, or it's balanced, or they hate it because they just don't like it. And of course, in this regard, it is an interesting topic to discuss. I mean, personally, in a sense, I've always thought the Tiger Race to an extent has been balanced. The thing is, balance doesn't necessarily mean it's a good unit, a well-designed unit, and in that regard, the Tiger Race I think is sort of more in the awkwardly, not necessarily well-designed unit, preferably with no preferred seat added into the game. But yeah, I mean, it's a sort of unit that, if you know it's coming, you can actually prepare for it quite well and completely ruin your opponent's day for it. Because again, it involves just sinking down, even then still a lot of resource and preparing and setting aside a lot of things for it. But even then, if you're not prepared for it, or you just, not that good of a player, it's like basically just, appearing out of nowhere with a sledgehammer and just, knocking people down. It's just completely, overwhelming. And in that regard, it's quite easy to understand, why the Tiger Race as it is, because ultimately the thing is to keep in mind, people don't see the massive tax, the opponents imply with the Tiger Race. All they see is a Tiger Race, running towards you. It's kind of like a magic trick, someone pulls out a rabbit out of the hat, but instead of normal rabbit, it's a killer rabbit. It goes on a killing spree throughout the entire audience, but the audience, and then of course the magician in this case has to pay a price for how long the killer rabbit is out there. The long, he risks, being sucked into the hat, into a realm of, being eaten by rabbits alive for all eternity. But people don't see that. All they're seeing is the killer rabbit going nuts amongst them. They don't see, the massive risk the, magician is taking. Although, of course, we have to ask why he's unleashing a killer rabbit onto the audience, but that's another story. And that's sort of the issue here. I mean, again, the vanilla play in essence is taking a massive risk by unleashing the Tiger Race onto the battlefield. And again, you'll see a lot of players screw it up simply because they don't use it very carefully. But the problem is the opponents don't see that. All they're seeing is a Tiger Race running around murdering their stuff. And that's kind of the thing with the Tiger Race. It's sort of in that regard, a very sort of, again, a divisive unit, because ultimately the ones that are complaining about it are basically the ones who only care about the fact, I'm getting hit with a Tiger Race. It's not very fun. And the other side is like, well, I suffer huge, economic, penalties for having the Tiger Race on the field, and if it gets counted, I could very well be in a lot of trouble. But again, so in that sense, the situation basically got two sides of people just completely talking past each other. For the ones calling in the Tiger Race, it needs to be worth it, and for the ones on the other side, it needs to be less, just sledgehammer out of nowhere or killer rabbit out of a hat, magician's show sort of nasty. I mean, who expects to kill a rabbit? No one. Except for that guy who's prepared for it. And of course, for that regard, for him, it's completely fair and balanced. Alright, there might be a killer rabbit, but I'm prepared, so I won't get killed, and I can enjoy the show. But again, for everybody else, it's not very fun now, is it? That space is sort of the area I think the Tiger Race sort of, inhabits right now, and it's kind of, again, why it sort of makes it also difficult to balance, because you still want it to be a high impact unit, but how do we then do it without just turning into a regular Tiger tank at the same time? So how do we actually do that? Of that matter, can we do, with say the King Tiger in Companies as well? How do we make sure these high impact units feel high impact, but not necessarily just kill a rabbit like? And I mean, in this regard, the problem sort of basically stems into the fact they're just a huge chunk of stats, which of course makes them very easy to use even for the most novice player. Whereas again, more sort of skill-intensive stuff, requires a bit more. It requires ability usage, but the Tiger Race basically got blitzkrieg and panzer-tactician, nothing, particularly, high yield in terms of just, skill rewarding play in that sense. And that's probably, if you were to try and balance the Tigers, and imagine also the King Tiger in Companies 2, because to an extent, even if you don't get the massive resource penalty, to an extent, sort of follows the same rule. It's just a high impact unit, but it's been nerfed to the point where most people don't use it now. So again, how would you then sort of balance these units? I mean, again, it's sort of what I mentioned with the Panther back, when they sort of kept nerfing it. and you suggest, how about buffing it to make it more useful, rather than just, laying on more and more stats. Give it abilities, or at least improve the abilities that have to be more, useful, impactful. Again, that way setting up for more skill, because, one of the massive skill factors in the game like companies is just how can you actually use your abilities and can you use them effectively. There's a massive difference between someone like Armstrong, use a lot of abilities available to him, ambush and camouflage. Well, that's the same thing, idiot. I'm talking to me about there, but also just the assault abilities, the smoke abilities, everything. There's a greater concerto of abilities than compared to some guys just going to go in. Oh, I'm calling commandos, boop, and that's it maybe. So in that regard, one way to make the target more impactful, but at the same time just lower the whole "good God, there's a killer rabbit on the loose" sort of effect, would be to switch a lot of its firepower, sort of raw firepower and raw veterans abilities into series of abilities like make blitzkrieg tactics all better, not just faster, but give it more damage output, increase its rate of fire like the old blitzkrieg did. That could be a start that way. That way again, you'd have to be more careful how you manage blitzkrieg tactics, because again, used correctly can have quite an impact, but again, used incorrectly, just with an ability that allows you like your Tigers to have more of an impact. Obviously, you could then give it more bits like spearhead tactics, which could be a bit better than the King Tigers, and the King Tigers, I suppose, in that sense, slowly gain veterans bonus for that one. Also, that way, lower maybe its veterans requirements. It can better fast, but instead, instead of stat bonuses, it just gains better versions of his abilities. But that gains, spearhead tactics for the Tigers, faster turret rotation with an arc of fire, longer sight, maybe longer range, all that stuff, and maybe some other further additional abilities, maybe passive like can throw out grenades, like a bit more reward for being close with infantry and all that. But things like that, could that way remove a lot of the direct just murder capability of the Tigers, shifting over to abilities that way, forcing more skill and competence in using the Tigers, and for that matter the King Tiger. That way, allowing them to have, a large, impactful unit in some ways, but at the same time, this all, damage output is then locked behind abilities, meaning the player then has to sort of skillfully manage the abilities, then get the full, murder abilities of the, King Tiger and Tiger Ace. That way, personally allowing the Wehrmacht, to Oberkommando to have these, more impactful units late game. But again, because they aren't just, a massive bundle of stats, they perhaps become a bit more easy to manage, and again they also become particularly less punishing for newer players to play against, because again, for a new player who's just really unexperienced against this, is just going to give you children's birthday party, and the first thing that they get thrown at them is kill a rabbit. That's not going to be very fun, or a lot more birthdays now, is it? So in that sense, I'd probably again just suggest shifting some of its firepower. Basically take some of all the skills it's got from say veteran Thief Tiger, and just lower them, so it'll be still slightly better than a regular calling Tiger, but not a lot better. Instead, it'd be blitzkrieg tactics, spearhead tactics, again some further abilities, maybe passive and active, and that way sort of create this slightly different unit. Again, that requires a lot more skill to fully utilize, but again, when used correctly, can hit really hard, maybe a bit slightly better than a Tiger is now, but again, it requires a lot more management, and thusly again the immediate impact of the Tiger is going to be a lot less heavy. At the same time, they could maybe then sort of slowly lower the cost reduction, the penalties, the taxes on the Tiger Ace by just a bit. That way again, making it slightly more fair in that way, but again, much more skill requiring, and again, perhaps a bit more fun for all sides involved. Similarly again with the King Tiger, though in this case, just lower the veterans requirements, shift all its bonus basically towards a series of veterans abilities, or abilities for the King Tiger that are immediately available. Maybe one that'll be added, but basically again, like spearhead tactics becomes better and better to the point where gain some nice bonuses when activating it. Blitzkrieg becomes better and better, again just more firepower, more impact, and maybe some sort of third ability of some sort. I don't know what it could be. Maybe some sort of tank turret ability, just scares the ever-living stuffing out of nearby infantry or something. But that way you could probably try and balance out these large German heavies without necessarily making them completely crazy, and again still have them be a bit more fun. So that'll sort of be my suggestion. Again, it's primarily centered around the Tigers, but as soon as went through the topic in my head, I sort of went, well, a lot of this stuff could probably be used to make the King Tiger a bit more attractive again, for a lot of players, because currently the King Tiger isn't very attractive either due to all the nerfs. So there you have it, a little topic there of Tiger Aces, and slightly off topic, King Tiger being a part of it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, hopefully agreed with the topic, maybe again, I'm aware not everybody likes the Tiger Ace, and I know some like it, but it's sort of again a bit of a divisive unit in some ways. I really like it to be in some ways at least slightly less divisive, and again overall slightly less punishing for players that just, are newer to the game, because in that regard the tigers can probably be seen as a bit of a turn off, like unleashing a killer rabbit at a birthday party for a child. So sign off in the comments, let me know what you think. This is Imperial signing off, we're back another time with another video. Cheers everybody.